Greetings and salutations everybody, welcome to my latest video, and as I had done not that long ago with A Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010, it's time to dive into another remake slash reboot with Ghostbusters from 2016, also referred to as the one with the women or the one that bombed. But is it actually a bad film? You know, was it worth it to attempt to remake this film? Well, here's a synopsis for what they wanted to do. Following a ghost invasion of Manhattan, paranormal enthusiasts Aaron Gilbert and Abby Yates, nuclear engineer Jillian Holtzman, and subway worker Patty Tolan band together to stop the otherworldly threat. So, okay, yeah, a reboot for sure, in that it's not building off of anything that the previous films had done, you know, like the original or the sequel, and that where this one, I feel like that's where this one kind of missteps. But let's start off with some of the good stuff on this one, the first impression. So, first off, I was excited when I saw what they were doing with this. You know, the cast is amazing, as everyone in it has a history of some, you know, really good work that they've been performing, especially in the lines of comedy and improv. So this seemed like a great pairing to put all these people together. And a remake slash reboot, sure, I was on board with that. Treat it like a new production of a play. Let's see what these writers want to change around, you know, about it, what the producers and directors and stars all want to do with this new iteration. You know, maybe they'll even get us several of these films, because, you know, they even mention in that opening credits this thing called Ghost Corps. So they seem to have those plans, and the fact that several cast members from the original had also stepped in to do little cameos was definitely a good sign. Where this film definitely went right was taking it in a different direction, you know, changing up the characters a bit instead of just creating female versions of the ones from the original movie. Or also trying to like retell the exact same story from the original movie. It was great that they kind of changed it up rather than just giving us the same story, same characters, put a 2016 skin on top of it. The comedy was great. Particularly from Kate McKinnon. She really hit it home in my opinion. She was kind of like the standout. Like, she gave zero care what she was doing and just went both barrels into this with everything she's got, and really gave us some great content there. But, you know, everybody in it had their moments. But not as many as they should have. But so let's move on here, because another good thing, the updated effects were amazing. They were really colorful, great design, everything really popped, and they did this strange thing where they had some of these effects kind of travel outside of the letterboxing, which I'd grabbed a clip of to kind of show here how it kind of goes outside of that black bar area, making it feel almost like, since it was popping out a little bit more, it's almost 3D in a way. And I saw something similar in a commercial for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where they were focusing on seeing the film in 3D. They did a similar thing in that trailer where they had stuff kind of staged outside of the letterbox. It's a cool little thing that they did that kind of stood out to me on the second or third time I'd watched it. They even changed up some of the ghost hunting gear. You know, we've got those gloves that they're able to like punch these ghosts with and do crazy stuff, and this weird like shredder kind of thing. And of course, just the general style was actually updated as well. Because honestly, this movie is a lot of fun. You know, it does have some great action, some great effects, but the story and some other aspects of it... Okay, well, let's go ahead and dive into some of that. So, you know, like I said, the cast is great, but it feels like their hands were tied. They were somehow, like, they weren't fully utilized. I don't know how much say they had in the script, but it seems like not much. And considering their background, if that was the case, it really explained how they missed this opportunity. It really felt like they just weren't really given enough to do in this, and yeah, that they kind of missed the boat on that one. I even watched the extended cut where you get to see some of these cuts where they went a little bit longer, and they were able to improv some better stuff in there, but unfortunately there wasn't really a way to edit that into that extended cut in a way that made it feel anything more than just way too long. So maybe they could have had them involved a little bit more in certain things, or had a different director or a different editor. They could have made something a little bit better out of it. And for Hemsworth, you know, he's another one. Some of his comedy really did work well, but there were some that was just a bit over the top, kind of stood out. And even Neil Casey, you know, kind of like our bad guy in this. He has this crazy background, and I've seen him in other things, you know, since this, but the role that he was in was just weak. There wasn't much for him to do with it. And I feel like for those familiar with the first two films, there was too much distraction and kind of making comparisons to how they did it in the previous iterations. You know, and that's where I feel like they really dropped the ball the most on this, was doing a reboot. Because Ghostbusters was successful, and the sequel was successful. They had cartoons and toys and video games and recent video games. So most people interested in checking this out are likely a fan of either the original or maybe even everything that came after it. So we know what ghostbusting is. We know what Ghostbusters are. The time taken to retell that origin story in that world that they built was a waste and made it take too long to kind of get the action going. And though this is definitely an unpopular opinion, I feel like Ghostbusters Afterlife was a much better route to go to just do a sequel. Not much was needed to get going in that one. We just had to introduce our new cast, give us a very quick refresher via the exposition by Paul Rudd's character, and we're off. But in this one, I feel like some people would probably get kind of tired of being told something that most of us already know, what ghostbusting is. But though I did, enjoy this film overall, it is a lot of fun, there are those problems with it, with those problems that I mentioned before, as well as the pacing and the focus on exactly what's going on in this. And having it be a remake for something that's so popular was probably a bad idea. Making this one likely more entertaining for people who had just never seen the original films. If you go in brand new, you don't know anything about Ghostbusters, you're probably going to like this film a lot more. So as a quick little summary here, great cast, though their roles were a bit stunted. Great updates and effects, but, we already know the universe that was laid out in the original. Overall, it can be fun, but those who are super familiar and super fans of the original may find the introduction of this new iteration a bit tiresome, and by the end, just kind of lack focus on exactly what was accomplished. So it does deserve, some of the criticism that it's gotten. I'm even giving some of it, myself right now, for what I've heard over the years, but not to the extent that I've heard it received. In my opinion, it's not as bad as some people seem to play it out to be. So all in all, I really feel like the remake wasn't needed, but it seems like they learned their lesson with Ghostbusters Afterlife, being a bit more successful and better received, at least enough to give us another film, which they just started filming. Anyways, if you want some light ghost hunting with fun comedians in it, great background, and some fun effects, jumps, and comedy, check it out. Despite its flaws, I feel if one goes in with an open mind and they just, set their expectations a little bit lower, they can just have fun checking out a very light kind of film like this. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest little video of mine for one of my little remake reviews. Though this one didn't work out that well, I feel like it's similar to Nightmare on Elm Street in that it has its pros, it has its cons. Ultimately, it probably wasn't needed. It would have been better to do a sequel. That's why I think I like Afterlife more. But anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please, give me a little thumbs up and maybe even subscribe and hit that little bell icon to get notifications for when I put up new content, which is usually once or twice a week. And I will see you in the next one.